Hey everybody, it's Eric Lyman here with Impact House Buyers, and today I just wanted to share a little bit of information around the foreclosure process. So we've worked with a lot of people over the years, and unfortunately what does happen from time to time is somebody can't make their mortgage payment and then bad things happen, put simply. But there has been a lot of confusion about this process and what actually happens and when and what it really means. I wanted to just take some time today and just, help educate a little bit about what this process is all about and what you can expect, and most importantly, what you can do about it so you can avoid foreclosure. But, basically, it's a multi-step process. It can take anywhere between 6 months and 12 months. But the most important thing to keep in mind is that being proactive about this process is one of the most important things you can do. And having a clear line of communication open with your bank is also going to help you out tremendously. So starting up here at the beginning, it really starts out with a missed mortgage payment or mortgage payments. Typically, after the first missed payment, you're going to hear a little bit of noise from your mortgage holder, which makes perfect sense. They have a large investment in you and the property, and they want to make sure that nothing bad is happening. It only really gets critical when you get to like two missed payments or maybe three missed payments. And I should also step back and say that, this whole thing, this whole video is a general guideline for what you can expect, but your specific case may be different. So make sure to talk to your bank and see exactly what's happening with your case. And, again, stay proactive about it. But essentially what's going to happen is you're going to miss a payment and the lender's going to reach out to you and they're going to either remind you or they're going to contact you by the phone or, SMS or email, try to get a hold of you to understand what's happening. Um, So, that leads us into step two, where the lender is reaching out to you to try to resolve things. Um, and again, it's really important to just have a clear line of open communication with them. Let them know what's going on, why the payment was missed, and really get a sense for what your options are. The bank does have some options to help you, first and foremost, because for them, look at it from their perspective. If somebody misses a payment on the house and they end up having to foreclose on it, that's actually tremendously expensive for them, both financially and also with a time perspective. A bank really isn't a real estate company. They're not interested in real estate. They are interested in the investment that real estate represents. So they need to make sure that they're going to recoup their investment on the property and the loan they've given you. And so that's really what their interest is. If they have to foreclose and go through all this rigmarole and process, typically they're going to be hiring outside people to help them do that. It's, again, super expensive. The bottom line here is that they're going to try to do everything they can to avoid foreclosure as well. So it's important not to think that they're like the bad guy in this situation. They're just doing what they have to do because they're a company and they have an investment. So they may reach out to you and ask you if you want to explore like a loan modification, where they actually restructure the mortgage so it's more favorable for you and more manageable. They may give you a different payment plan or a different payment amount or timeline, or they may allow you to go into what's called forbearance, where you're able to pause your mortgage payments for a set amount of time, and then you'll resume your normal payment after that. Or they may ask you to resume the normal payment, but then make up the difference. All banks handle these things differently, so you need to, again, reach out to your bank and see what's going to happen. But it's also important to know that typically they're not going to allow you to continue to go into forbearance time and time again, right? So that's something that you can use once, maybe twice, depending on your bank and your situation. But then after that, they're going to expect steady payment because, again, that's what they agreed to when they gave you the loan. So assuming that things don't go well in that step, they move on to step three, which is the notice of default. So this is going to be anywhere between 3 to 6 months after the initial missed payment. They're going to send you an official notice of default letter to you, and they're going to start the foreclosure process officially. So this is typically recorded with the county or the courthouse. That way, they have a legal standing to do what they're going to do if things don't improve. Typically, this is a 90-day period as well, and you're still allowed to come back and try to cure the default at this point. So catching up the past due amount, again, communication, proactivity, these things are going to help you more than anything at this point. And then if things don't improve from there, And again, this is a 3 to 6 month timeline, so maybe overlapping with these previous steps. You're going to go into a phase which is called pre-foreclosure. So this is typically like the last resort from the bank's point of view, where they're going to do everything they can to try to work with you, get the payments back on track. And this is also typically when people reach out to us and they look for selling solutions. So we very frequently run into people when they're in pre-foreclosure. It's really important that it is pre-foreclosure because once you've hit foreclosure, then it's really too late for anybody to come in and buy the house or do anything to help fix it. We as impact house buyers have helped people before during the pre-foreclosure process where we can actually catch up the mortgage and keep it current during the time that we actually work with the sellers and buy the property and find a solution. It's not something we can always do. It is quite circumstantial, but we have done that before. And it can be a real lifeline because people may be in the pre-foreclosure process. They want to sell the property, but they're just running out of time because they've either waited too long or something has prevented them from going forward in the past. So again, pre-foreclosure is a really critical phase. If you are in pre-foreclosure yourself, please reach out to us ASAP so we can get that process started. I can't tell you how many times we've worked with people who were sort of in a phase of denial about the whole process, which is very understandable because it is an emotional process. Nobody expects to be in pre-foreclosure or foreclosure at any point when they buy a house. But for whatever reason, they just wait too long. They don't get back to us. We don't go under agreement. And then they come back to us a month later, 2 months later, and it's just too late for us to help because the courthouse has already made a judgment and they have to move into foreclosure. Um, so yes, pre-foreclosure is a really critical phase, and it's the last step before actual foreclosure, which happens shortly after that. Once that time period is passed, then what's going to happen is the lender is going to schedule a foreclosure sale, which could look like an auction. So your house will be put up for auction. And it's typically, let's see, is that the next step? Step 6. Yeah, foreclosure auction. So you got the notice of foreclosure. That's pretty quick. And then you go into the auction process. So this is what it sounds like. The bank, is going to offer the property up for sale at an auction, or it may be facilitated by, the courthouse, or the county clerk, or the sheriff, and they're going to auction the property off to the highest bidder. Typically, the sale price is set to the amount of the mortgage, or there's going to be some kind of assessment done by the sheriff, and they'll typically price it at something like 2/3 of the assessed price of the sheriff because again, they just want to get the property sold and the mortgage paid off. If the property does go to auction, but there are no bidders, then the property actually becomes the property of the bank. And it's called an REO property or real estate owned property at that point. From there, so one or two things have happened. Either it does get auctioned off successfully or it becomes the property of the bank. In either case, at this point, what the new owner is going to do is really whatever they want to do with it. The bank is probably going to try to continue selling it because, again, a bank is not a real estate company. They're just a bank. They're a financial institution. They don't know what to do with properties if they had one. They just sell them. If it's gone to auction and somebody's purchased it, that could be somebody who intends to live there. It could be another real estate investor who wants to fix it and flip it, turn it into a rental or what have you. In either of those situations, the new owner does have title. They are the official owner, and you are, as the previous owner is just a previous owner, and the new owner has the right to evict at that point. So if that happens, typically they'll have a sheriff come to the property and force an eviction. There are notices for this as well, so it doesn't happen instantly. Depending on what state you live in and what county you live in, there could be a time period where you're given notice to evict, that kind of thing. But that's typically the entire process, start to finish. Um, Again, if I had to say the most important parts of this whole thing for you, if you're in this situation, is to stay in clear communication with your bank, understand where they're at with the process, what your options are, and just stay proactive and try to stay emotionally uninvested in the process. Um, Easier said than done. It can be a very emotional process for sure. especially when we think about a house often represents more than just a structure, but it's a place where you live. So it's an emotional place as well. Totally get it. But we've worked with people in this process a lot. We've come to a lot of winning solutions. So we are able to make offers at the right time, go under contract at the right time before it's too late, and come to a winning solution. And even in some cases, if it makes sense, we'll actually make those mortgage payments to keep the property out of foreclosure. But again, that can only happen in certain situations, and time is one of the biggest factors in that. So definitely reach out to us ASAP if that's the case. But hopefully this has been helpful. Again, this is a general overview. Your situation may be different. Talk to your bank. That's the main message here. Thanks a lot.